practice using that. All right, this way and speak to them. I'm actually they're not, but
All right, everybody. My name is Adria Kinder. I'm with 2K Inspections. I know a lot of you in the room, but for those of you that don't, we do home inspections. We also do pool and spa. We do septic. We do well. We do sewer scope. All the things. A couple things that sets us apart from other companies would be that we offer pay at closing options. So any of your clients that are, buying a home is very expensive at the upfront. So if they're ever struggling with down payments, things like that, and all the options. We do have the option where they can pay at the closing table. And then the other thing is we own a pest company as well. So all of our home inspections do get a free move-in pest spray. So once your clients move in to the home, we come out and spray inside and out for general pests. That way they're moving in pest free. We market that as a gift from us and from the agent. Just something to give back to you for referring us. We let them know, like, because you use us and we use your agent. I know to be ready with these words. Uh, that you get this special gift from us. And so just something extra to give to them when we know that they're moving into a home, they have all these expenses coming up.
Pest with an inspection with 2K.
Yes, use us, we come out and spray for pest.
All right, you got to type your information in. It's exciting. And by the way, y'all, they provide some really, really great reports. So go ahead and put your information in.
I should put the K person.
They respond at weird hours too.
Anytime. Anytime. I have a phone, it's a cell phone, and it's on me all the time, and doesn't matter what time it is. If I'm awake, I'm gonna answer. So
Sounds good. Thank you. I'm sorry I asked you about photos earlier. I only saw the back of her and I just started having a whole conversation. All right, so this is a 3-hour CE class. So if y'all want your CE credits, you have to turn on your cameras. All right, and it would help me if you would edit your go to rename yourself and then edit to change to your name and license number so the girls can take roll. If you don't have your cameras on and you're not in here, you won't get credit, but you can still attend the class, okay? Anybody who hops on after 12:15 will not get credit. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started. And this is me. Y'all already know me already. And this is a class that you're getting. So it's going to be listing contracts. Actually, that's not my fault. Trek mistyped that. It's actually wrong on Trek because I copied it right off of Trek. It's 3-hour MCE, and that's the course number. And we're going to start right now. If you guys are driving, we will kick you out of the class because we don't want you to be looking at contracts while you're driving. All right? Rules. Same rules every single time. Make sure we can read your license number if y'all are signing in here. We all have your license number, but sometimes I teach other agents and I need them to have their license number. Silence your phones for me. If you're 15 minutes late, you receive 0 credit. If y'all need to take a call for a client, step outside. As long as you're not gone for more than 15 minutes, I'm okay with that. It's interactive, so I am going to call on you. Expect to be called upon. Feel free to get up for restroom breaks. We will take a break every 15 minutes. Trisha's here. She will make sure I also give you guys, she actually holds up a sign and says break time. And then make sure you complete your review form. So that is it for this. So the first thing I'm going to do, guys, is before we start contracts, I want to teach you guys how to run a comp. So this all has to do with the market that we have right now. So does anybody have we can't do your $1 million. Okay. What area of town is it in? Is it already on the market?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, um, I decided to do this first. I mean, it doesn't matter we do it first or later. But if y'all want to do some open houses, reach out to Lori or Corey. They have lots of listings. And in that same instance, we have a lot of agents who are trying to price out homes. So before we go in to a listing appointment, we need to be able to price a home properly. We need to be able to see the historical data and we need to know what are we up against. So I have taught you guys always to pull 3 to 5 up to 10 comps, sold comps, right? We have not for the last 10 years ever had to look at actives. We don't care about actives. We don't care about pendings because we're in the seller's market. It really doesn't matter. We put it up, we get it sold. Nowadays, if you put it up for the wrong price, it's not going to work out as well for you. Okay. So with that, what is the address of your particular property?
It's 1, 2, 1, 3, Texas, right?
Texas what?
Profit. Trail.
Okay. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at, apparently it's in the Groves or Grove. Okay. And with it being such a common name, I can pretty much guarantee that this is going to pop up in multiple areas. So I'm going to open this, I'm going to open one of them up and I'm just going to grab the zip code 77346. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my dashboard. And by the way, it's just habits. Y'all can do it your own way to get there. A lot of y'all go to search and select one of these. I just go straight to subdivision here and it's the Groves, okay? All right. So we have all of these here, Groves at Vintage, Groves, whatever it is. So I'm going to go to criteria and then I'm going to check for solds. This is something that we've never had to do before and y'all should always do now is when you're running comps, you should always go ahead and click only Houston, okay? Because what happens is that only took one away, but sometimes San Antonio and Austin might have a subdivision that's the same. The other thing is it has 105. So what I'm going to do is 77346 was the zip code. Was it the zip code 77346, Danielle? Okay. So there's been 105 matches. That is a lot, and that's going to be hard to price this home. Okay.
Has 3 bedrooms. I mean, 3 bedrooms, and they call that. Makes it big credit one.
Okay. So it has 3 bedrooms and a 3.5 baths. Okay. So with that, there's still 18 solds. So what I'm going to do is I'm always going to pull this first. Now, for some of y'all, if the subdivision's not there or we can't find the comps, we're going to do within miles of, but there's plenty enough. There's more than 10. Okay. Do you know what year it was in? Oh, I lost it. Hold on. The Groves, 77346. 3 plus, 3 plus, 1 plus. What year was it? 2020. So anytime there's a year, I'm gonna go 2 years before and 2 years after, and I have 9. So I was able to get from 18 to 9. So for those of y'all who can't see it, I can't seem to select it, but for those of y'all who can't see it, right down at the bottom, it says 9 matches right here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select it and I'm going to do the search and I'm going to select all. Mine is this rental at the bottom. I have enough for a quick CMA now. Okay. So that's CMA number 1. So what this shows me is the comp value is 163.87, right? Let me see if I can make this go. It's doing something because I touched the screen. Okay. All right. Is it blurry or like do I? Okay. I was like, maybe I need my glasses. Um, so here's what I see. The sold that sold at anything 155 right here. This is always where you're gonna look at in this little column right here. So we're always gonna look right here. See this is square feet that was actual sold right here at the bottom. That's where we're always going to look because right here is listed for 160. It sold at 155. Right here, 163, it sold for 157. So we can see that it's always selling for less. Okay. Now, here's how we figure out, okay, the price that they're suggesting to me is 163.87. Okay. It's suggesting price 163.87, but if you look over here at 163.20, it was on the market for 95 days. That tells me it's too high, right? Right here, 170, this sold for 18 days, but we probably should take a look at it to see if maybe it was completely renovated or if there was money provided at closing. This one at the bottom at 171 has a pool. It still sold for 160. It was too high. It doesn't even belong in this comp, but I didn't look at it. So it's there. And there's a couple with 5 bedrooms. So 4 and 5 bedrooms, they're going to be about the same, but you can kind of look to see you can kind of look to see that everything here is sold 168, 163, 160 is 36 days, 174. So really, in reality, this 163, if you list it at 163, it's going to be too high. 160, let's look for prices at around 160, still 95 days. Let's see, 160, nobody listed for 160. This is still 283. 163 is 95 days. These are all over. They sold fairly quickly, but I'm going to look at the lowest number, 164, 180. So I would probably try to get this at 159 a square feet. I would talk to my clients and say, hey, look, if I were a buying agent and I looked at this community, it looks like everything in the 160 is still sitting on the market. So I wanted to list it for 159 or less. Now, that is my starting number. So I just said 159, right? So now we want to look at supply and demand. So you want to go back to your criteria and you leave it open. And now you want to select everything that's available. So you got coming soon, active, option pending, and continue to show. Okay. So we just looked at everything that's sold that's going to give us our number. The comps are going to show up exactly the same. But in that same instance, we're going to take a look at all. And we're going to do a quick CMA. And now with the 159 in mind, that's a rental. That's not going to affect me at all. Listings. You got 177. Too many days on the market. We weren't going to list that high. So let's look for the lowest. At 163 a square foot, it's listed for 314 days. Okay. So your 159 is still a good price based on the solds, and based here, that means that if somebody comes and takes a look, you're at the lower price point. And then now we're going to look at pendings to make sure there's nothing below the 159 price point. So the new comps takes it out to 145, but I think it's because, let me take this one out. So understanding the supply and demand is really important. So it says 163 should be your comp. But if you list it for 163, there's a potential of it sitting on the market for at least 70 days. When somebody asks you to sell their homes, do they want the market on the market for 70 days. No. So 159, when a buyer's agent comes in and you're looking at all of this, you have the most potential to sell because you're at lowest price per square feet in that subdivision. Does that make sense? Because you have so much competition. Hey, seller, there's 6 other homes listed in your in the subdivision. I ran the comps. It comes up around the 160-ish square feet for the sold, so for everything that sold, but all those that sold took between 70 to almost 300 days. Do you want for me to hold this listing for the next 6 months? No. Okay. So in order to sell your home faster, I need to list it at a competitive price point. There are 6 other listings in your subdivision right now, and the lowest price home in there is 163. I'd like to be able to list your home at 159 a square feet. And that gives you little or no room for negotiating, but that will bring in offers more quickly. And so when the offers come in, I can have a conversation with that buying agent and saying, hey, this is the best price house in the neighborhood per square feet. Does that make sense? Alex? Yes or no? You sure? It's like, Danielle, does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yes, because right now I only have 2 visits in 12 days, and the house is in 177 per foot.
177 a square foot. Nobody's going to touch your house. Okay.
That's what the sellers want.
So, but you have to educate your sellers. It is a different market. So I'm telling y'all 159 for whatever address she gave me, and she's listing it for 177 a square feet. If you're a buyer's agent and you go to her listing, do you think that $18 difference, do you think that seller is going to be negotiable? Yes or no? No. That seller is probably going to be stubborn, and they're not even going to meet you halfway. And even at 165, I feel like it's too low. I'm not even going to waste my breath. Does that make sense? So for all of y'all who has listings, this is something we all need to revisit. Before we go in and have the conversation, we have a FSBO down the street, we have a house for sale or whatever. Before you walk into a listing appointment, know what's happening in that neighborhood. So let's go back and revisit. So we just ran 2 comps, right? One old-fashioned way, solds only, because we didn't care. Now we do care. The second one, fairly quickly, I'm only 18 minutes into the class. Let's run a third one. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try to clear the results. Okay. Now what we're going to do is, Danielle, what is the address?
143 Texas. No.
So you, as a good listing agent, you're going to take it a step further, right? And you're going to go ahead and do a 1-mile radius search, okay? And you're going to just plug in the same thing. Actually, I'm just going to put in 3 because there's so many coming up right now. 1. I still have oh, hold on. Okay, 31 is still a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a radius search. Now, look what happens when I click all of these. I'm not really concerned with what subdivision they are when I do this. I've already come up with a price point. Now I want to prove a point to the seller that no other listing agent out there has probably ever explained to the seller, right? Rocio? Didn't you have a client who they had a listing up forever and ever, nobody ever explained to them? Once you explained it to them, were they open to a price adjustment? Yes. I made her say that because she's like, I am not ready for this. And then, so we're going to go in and we're going to select all. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do our quick CMA. And this, the only reason why you're going to use this is you're going to sit down with the seller and say, how many listings do you think is within a 1-mile radius of you right now? How many active listings do you know? Well, in the subdivision, it looks like you told me what, like 6 or 8? Within a 1-mile radius of you, There is 16, 20, there's 20 listings. There's some continue to shows. There's 8 pending listings, and there's 24 that sold. And of that, Balmoral is near you, which is a brand new subdivision. So you're competing against new builds. So when we get to pricing, I need for you to consider what's going on with those new builds. Are they selling? Is my pricing competitive in this particular subdivision? Does that make sense? Go ahead. Correct.
Basically, if yours is priced too high, then they're gonna look at your neighbor's house and say, what do you feel?
Correct.
And if it's priced below your neighbor's. Yours is the deal, and yours doesn't.
Correct. Yep. She said you're either going to sell your home or you're going to sell your neighbor's home. And it's all about pricing. So if you look at all the actives, right? You got a brand new home right here. Brand new, 2025, $155 a square foot. It's been on the market for 80 days. That's who you're competing against. So not only do you have to understand, like what I told you this morning, you have to understand the numbers. You need to also understand what's going on in that particular market. And then you need to look at the bigger picture. And we just did all of that in less than 20 minutes. And actually, y'all probably could do it in 5, but I just explained it all to you. Does this make sense to everybody? Why it's really, really important to run the numbers this way nowadays?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
Lisa, I put an address in there that's not in a subdivision. Can you
Yes.
try that one?
Yes. So, yes. So you would definitely bring in all your numbers. What I would do is I would bring in your listing presentation, whatever it is you're going to leave, and leave the price suggestions. I wouldn't leave these comps because they're going to take it, they're going to hand it to the next agent, and they're going to be like, here's an explanation of why. So I want you to do the same thing. You can just tell them this is the price point, show it all to them and say, hey, this is my information, but here's your price suggestion. They can go ahead and try or have the next agent try. But the problem with them is if you leave this, it gives them a way to teach another agent how to negotiate on your behalf. Does that make sense? So, Corey has this particular property. And by the way, when I run comps, I always have lots of screens. So does everybody understand how that works? So when you are preparing for a listing, the first thing you have to have is a number. And so you can completely fill out your listing agreement and just leave that number open. Okay? All right. So Corey wants me to run this number. So what we did was we just ran one that was in a subdivision, right? So what you're going to want to do is you want to go and here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear. The way you run, if you can't find any homes in the subdivision, you go to paste it and you go to solds. It only gives you one match. Then the next thing you need to do is you've got to sometimes what I do is I bring out the days a little bit just to check. So there is only one. So I'm going to bring it back to 180. And then I'm going to and this is in your luxury range. So luxury homes are a little bit more fun. Thanks, Corey, for making me feel like I might be need to be a little bit smarter. So you're going to remove your subdivision name. So what I'm doing now is I want to go from 0.25 all the way up to as far as a mile, because you got to think of how far will appraisers go, and it's typically max 2 miles. Anything over 2 miles, you're out on farm and ranch, undeveloped property, acreage, and things like that. So I'm just gonna go the 1 mile, but I'm gonna go ahead and check to see what's going on with 2 miles. So apparently there's a lot going on in 2 miles, so I want to take it down, and it's gonna be a single family, and I got 4. So I always do my searches this way first. I always just go ahead and get my solds. And mind you, because I I I didn't put any year or rooms or anything in there because it barely gave me enough, right? But at the end of the day, the appraiser is going to go out there and they're going to take whatever is available and then they're going to make adjustments up or down. Okay. So you have right here, this sold for above and beyond. Oh, did they just sell the property? Oh, nope, that's down the street. So they actually sold at 186. So there's another house that is really close to theirs that sold at 186 square feet. So in my head, the appraiser is going to be looking at that and it's like, that's a really great price to go with. Okay. So one of the things you have to do is make sure the land size is about the same. And this is, I think, is a little bit under, is it over an acre? How many acres is this?
1.5 on mine, but that Karen switch is land price only. The house has no roof. It's tore down. I mean, it's horrid. But there is a house on it.
So they sold it for land value only?
Yep.
Well, they got a really good deal off of land value only because it's selling at the same price as that buying agent is not going to be very happy. Uh, somebody must have went in and bought it at cash value. So let me ask you, Magnolia, but they all have square footage. So we're still going to go with that. So you should be, if it's land value only, then the highest you can probably list that is close to 195 to 200 a square feet. Okay. Comp value is 179 a square feet. You got this property right here that was listed for 142 days. You're an acre and a half, so you can adjust for that acreage and you can add about $7 to $10. That puts it at 170 a square feet. You can also run lot comps and add it to the adjusted price if you're not 100% sure what the land value is. But I'm just going to say, let's adjust it because he picked a fun one for me to do. So this is one where I would run the house and I would run vacant lot on. So that way I could figure out the difference between the land size. So bear with me. I'm going to do an additional comp. And then you guys are just going to learn something that's kind of out of your realm. There's no lots in that area for sale either. Let's see within 2 miles. Is there any lots out there for sale?
No.
Yeah. I'm just gonna give it that $10. So 170, 169, 170. There's something wonky. Y'all notice this is 190, 180, 159, and 186. Yeah. Let me take this one off real quick. 159 a square feet. I'm gonna take 310 off. I've just been doing this for So 186 a square feet. Yeah, but his has a house on it, he says. I don't know what's going on with yours. I would need to take a look at that other listing. 186. So I would pin yours at like a little less than 700. Just at by looking at the sold comps, Corey. I can't tell what's going on in that particular market unless I like really sit down. Danielle's was a little bit easier because I'm doing a radius search
Right.
and it's in the luxury. I really need to see one, how the homes are built, who built the homes, what conditions they're in, and if they've been remodeled. So when you're dealing in the luxury market, those are all the things. But just looking at numbers alone, not looking at the upgrades or anything, my price point would be starting at 650 to 700. So I haven't looked at your list price, but let's go and take a look at everything else that's pending and active in that area. So once you do that, then you got your coming soon right here that you really need to check at to see what price they're at. Okay. So yours does need a little bit more detail, but just at a glance, Corey,
Right.
your coming soon is listed at 194. So you list it for 186 to 190. You have room because you got this guy that's coming in at higher, which pushes the buyer over to you. You also had the listing a little bit longer, so that makes a huge difference. This one is active for 200, 210, and 310. So we know anything over 300 is going to be too high. 210 is still a good number, but it's still long. I would still keep it under closer to the 190 price point because anybody that's running comps is going to be looking at these numbers down at the bottom. Does
Okay.
that make sense?
It does, but there's a lot of extra stuff to that. It's he's got a brand new well on, or he's putting in a brand new well.
So
And a
all
fence,
those are
but it's
adjustments.
also unrestricted.
So what you would do with that
Subdivision
is,
behind him is all restricted, and so I'll price the house, which is nicer than the average one back there doing comps, at that. And then I had to go out literally like 10 or 12 miles to find an acre and a half to 2 acres unrestricted with no land on it. And it was going for about 100,000 an acre because it's
Yeah.
right in Magnolia. And I'm just making sure I did it right.
so I can play with that for you. So I'm not going to teach y'all adjustments here. I just want to
Yeah.
teach y'all the base number. So the base number that you're starting out is 650 to 700. With that, guys, in the luxury brand, you can, like he said, have a brand new well. You could be the only house in the entire neighborhood with a gated fence system. You might have additional structures or stalls and things like that. And with it being unrestricted, it does make it a little bit more valuable. But we're not going to work on adjustments right now. But Corey, we didn't look at your final price. I can actually sit down if I can get a list of everything that's in that area. It's a matter of adding the pricing to the house, how much it's going to cost, and then giving it some depreciation amount because it's not going to go for the full price of something that's brand new. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I have 2 of them that you can help me with.
Okay, that's fine. I actually asked Lori, I was like, hey, Lori, I'd be okay with running comps. And that goes for all of y'all. The market has changed. This is the first time in 20 years that this has happened to the market. And we want to get it at the front versus at the end when people are like, y'all's listings are sitting on the market for 2 and 3 years. We don't want anything to do with you. Okay. So that makes a difference. So with that, now that you have the pricing, then we're going to go in and we're going to talk contracts. All right. So you're going to go into your dot loop and I teach you how to negotiate the contracts just as if I was teaching you how to represent the seller. So if you took the buy class with me, you got to put that aside. Now I am working for the seller and I'm going to teach you the opposite on all the contracts. That means everything that I taught you on how to write on what to write on the 1 and 4, I'm going to teach you the exact opposite because now we're representing the seller. So you have to have a different mindset when you're working with sellers versus working with buyers. Does that make sense? Yes, perfect. So we're going to do listing contracts class. And we're going to go to listing rep representing the seller, and we're going to go through the contracts, okay? And y'all can get your CE. I teach my contracts class a little bit different because we already have to take a lot of the contracts information in legal class. So I'm going to go through them all. Let me download it. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna drop it into. All right. So your IABS is your IABS. The only difference is we've just recently updated it. It becomes effective actually tomorrow, but we updated it like a month ago. It basically says, hey, uh, we're getting paid a commission. It is negotiable. It's always been negotiable, except now they're just writing it there. Okay. This doesn't bind them. If you guys have issues getting your client's initials on this at open houses or anything like that, just write the date and write their name on it and then just save it in your files. All right. Broker notice to tenant. As a listing agent, you are required to fetch this for me. Okay. This tells the buyer and the buyer's agent, hey, I'm listing this on the MLS. If I forgot something, it is your job, buyer, tenant, to figure it out and make sure you verify the information. So if Corey says this is 2 acres and then it's actually 2.5 or only 1.5, well, that's why you should have paid for a surveyor or appraiser or inspection company to go out and figure out what size it was. You got to call the right people, and that's going to be the appraiser. Okay. Also the surveyor if the land is not marked. Okay. But that is stated right here at the bottom. Okay. It just says certain information in the MLS, such as square footage, assessed tax value, and year built. It's nobody, you got to verify the information and its accuracy. Okay. So that's really important. Exclusive right to sell. Sellers, name of humans, okay, or party of. If you have an entity, a power of attorney, then you need to write in the information of the person who is actually going to sign and their name. So let's just say ABC Company represented by Lisa Benoit. All the signature boxes have to have Lisa Benoit, not ABC Company by Lisa Benoit. Okay. If y'all ever run into business entities buying or selling things, just ask me. I have a little worksheet that has Dylan's name on it. It shows you exactly how to break it down. And that way you can draft it out properly. The signature line should never have the company's name. It should never be signed as ABC Company, because that means that when they're like, hey, I didn't sign for that. And they're like, yeah, you did. No, that says ABC Company. Bob could have signed ABC Company, or that person over there who didn't like me could have signed there. Does that make sense? If the house is owned by a person, a married man, okay, or a married woman, their spouse needs to also sign, or you need to get verification from their spouse that they're authorizing the sale of the home. In Texas, one person may own the house, one person may buy the house, one person may do a loan on the house, and the other person never shows up on the deed or anything like that. When they go to sell in Texas, that home has become community property, and the spouse or the recently ex-spouse may have to sign, or you have to provide a divorce decree. Does that make sense? So a lot of y'all ask me this question. If What if the husband owns a house and the wife was not on the loan and not on the house? The wife still has to approve of it. When they go to title, they can work all that out on who's getting approved and who signs what, but you have to get authorization. Now, if you pull up tax records and let's just say Javier, only Javier's name shows up on the listing, and Javier says, well, my wife Trisha here doesn't want to sign anything, but she's okay with the sale. If you talk to Trisha and she's like, yeah, I'm fine. I don't want to sign anything. My name's not on the house anyways. Y'all can go ahead to proceed moving forward, but we need that in writing via text or email. Does that make sense? Ask me questions.
So what's the problem with the last one? Because like I have one is to sell,
What's the proper way to ask if they're married? So you go onto the tax records and say, I see here Javier and Trisha are the owners of the property. Can I please get the information for Javier and Trisha?
No, in this case, the house is for sale
By Custom Homes? So by a company? Then you're going to ask them, can I get the name of the person who's going to be signing? Sounds good? Okay, perfect. So Bob White is going to be signing for whatever Custom Homes. Can you please go ahead and give me your formation documents for ABC Custom Homes? I can't remember the name of the home anymore. Can I get the name of, can I get the formation documents? And on that formation document, it's going to show Bob White can sign plus Lisa Benoit and Trisha Salinas. And then it's also going to show, well, only Lisa can sign for real estate, but Bob can do all the financials and Trisha can do marketing. So with that, that means I must be the one who signs on the real estate documents, and the banking information is going to have to be signed by Bob. So technically Bob shouldn't be signing and I should be signing. Does that make sense? Formation documents give you two things: who is authorized to do what and what they're authorized to do. Does that make sense? And you're going to have to download that and save it into your compliance files if you end up getting a company who's buying or selling, because once it goes through compliance and we see that it's a company name and somebody else's name, we're going to ask you for a documentation of those formation documents. And we will not approve your CDA if you didn't do it properly, because we don't want Goober from down the street selling this custom home and it doesn't belong to them. Does that make sense? Yes. Got it? Anybody online have a question? Yes. Every single time you set up an LLC, an S Corp, a C Corp, or partnership, it automatically comes with formation documents. Typically, it's going to be the owner of the company, but corporate companies is going to have like 122 pages of formation documents. They're just going to pull off the one page of the one person that is authorized to sign, as well as the first page and the signature pages, which is a total of 3 pages. First page to show what the company is, who the owners are. Second page to show who can sign and for what item. And the last page. They're not going to send you all of their other 119 or 118 pages because they don't want you to have their very detailed company information. Does that make sense? Okay, so with that, I'm going to give you all a break right now, and we'll come back here in about 10 minutes. It's only 12:45. But I just dumped a lot of information on you guys. And so I want to be able to answer a couple of questions in the next 5 minutes, and then y'all come back at 1, okay? So, anybody online have questions? It's a lot of information, huh? Oh, Chica, you ready for today? Uh-huh. Right. I'm not running your comps for you, TK. TK has a listing coming up and he wants to sell it to you guys. He's like, oh, Lisa, run a comp on my house. I'm like, no, TK, I already did. He tricks me into doing it. Then he downloads it onto his computer and says he did it already. Corey, was that a little helpful? Oh, he ran off already. Lori? She's like, no, see.
Yes, it was. And that's the way I did it. It's just where that's located for unrestricted property is almost impossible to find. And I had to go out so far to get comps on the lot alone.
Yeah. Let me play with it because when it's certain properties like that, I can do the quick search. I'm able to give you the base numbers, but
Right.
for any kind of upgrades, any of those additions, lot, extra size, extra lots and stuff like that, like what
On,
you're saying is if everything that we're running comps against is only a quarter of an acre and you're sitting on over an acre, then you need to be able to adjust for that extra 0.75. And if it is selling for $100,000 an acre down there, then that's automatically $75,000 that you can add to your particular property, as well as any other items that we need to adjust for. And that is just a little bit more detailed than, a basic comp
right.
that I wanted to run. Thank you very much, Corey.
Oh, no worries, no worries. I will give, if anybody runs into this and it's, you have a larger lot, half acre or more than what the traditional ones are, the appraiser is only, from his comps, is only going to give you $1 a square foot per acre, or yeah, $1 a square foot over what the average is. So if they're on an acre and we're on an acre and a half, he'll comp it with acre properties and you will only get $1 a square foot for that second half acre. They really screw us on that.
So this is when you can you do a appraisal dispute, or at your listing, or when the appraiser goes through your property. This is when it's helpful to have the land comp sitting there as well as the home comp sitting there, so he could take the numbers and add it together and work it out to make it work. So one of the things when I do listings is, and I failed to do this on my last $700,000 listing, which I need to do today, is I need to make sure that I leave a package at the house for when the appraisal finds it. I used to call them love letters. I used to post bright pink post-it notes everywhere in the house. And you're not supposed to do that as a message to the appraiser, but now you can just leave it as a book and have all the upgraded information and the valuation to it. So that way, when they walk through it, they can add and they can be like, well, I mean, I know you want $100,000 for this well system, but I'm only going to give you 60, but at least they have something to go off of versus, well, I didn't know it was brand new.
Right. Yeah, I fought too when we were at Abbey that for a larger, we had a larger lot, one
Yeah.
and a half times the other one. And both of them said that's standard is $1 a square foot over
It,
the
it
average.
is standard unless you're able to provide the information. So in commercial real estate, that's all we do. Like when we run comps, we have to do comps on the building as well as comps on the entire all the land.
Right. There was vacant lots in the neighborhood, this previous one I was talking about, they were listed for $550 an acre. And I was like, dude, just give me half of that and we would have made our comps. And he goes, nope, $1 a square foot is all you'll get over it. So
Yeah,
remember
and
that,
the
because you
thing
could
is,
use it on the buyer side too.
yeah, once they do it, once they give you the original comp, they're not going to go very far. So
Right.
that's really important for you as a listing agent. So when the house is getting ready to appraise, for you to have a whole packet at the house for them to go through, because they'll give you that higher pricing there versus the adjustment. Appraisers hate being wrong and they hate going out to readjust. And if they're going to readjust, they're not going to readjust for very much.
You know, I was the buyer's agent and did that. And it didn't help on either one of them. They're stubborn. They won't change
If you're a
anything.
buyer's agent, you can get it as low as possible. That's what you want to be.
Absolutely. But when it was that big of a chunk, we lost the house because the sellers would only
Sellers
come
didn't want to
half.
sell.
Like, yeah. So it happened bit twice.
Yeah.
But that's a note because I used that on another buy and her comps were off because she didn't have the extra $1 a square foot for a half an acre. And I told him
Yeah.
what it was. So he came in with like almost $30,000 in equity. It came over asking price. So that's a good thing to remember.
Yeah.
Leslie.
Okay.
We send James all that, corporate information. Which we dealing with the building. With the list,
For the builder, for a big builder, not necessarily because they're not going to provide it to you, but typically you're going to know it's one of their salespeople that's going to be able to sign for a builder. Okay. Y'all got 10 minutes or 9 minutes. I would take the 9 minutes because I can tell you I'm about to spit out a lot of information really fast. Yes. I guess so. What's the address? So I can tell you everything in Hockley right now is prices are going down because there's 3 or 4 developments competing against each other, and they're all new developments. So everybody is going to be reducing prices fairly quickly. No, just say, can you please provide the formation documents which shows who's authorized to sign on the contracts? What's the name of the subdivision? Is it Bauer Landing? This is management company. Okay. I must have helped you run comps for this area before. $157.70,
Yes.
$157.72. So hold on. 160 and 40. I would stay in the 145s. Goes to So you see actives right here, 146, still too high. So 145, look, this is 134. You're going to be competing against this one, and this one. 145 is a good price. Does that make sense? So even this one is pending at 151. It's probably in contract for 145 or less.
But that's not bad.
Yep. What's the address?
Yeah.
Who's the house awarded to?
And so it's like,
No, who is a house awarded to?
so they have to finalize maybe if he's getting the house.
If he's getting the house, is she on the loan?
It's the VA ones, I don't think so.
So I would let him take the house under his name and let him deal with it on his credit.
Yeah.
Since the house has been already
Someone
awarded to
out
him.
there, you know, it's not pronounced, is that they're in the middle of the chain.
Yeah, and once it's finalized and it's all 100% his house, when he files for foreclosure, it goes against him, not her. Depends on if the house may or if she may get a portion of the funds. If any. Yeah. So with that, there is you got acreage for sale, and then you got 8 other listings. I'm sorry. You got 35 other active listings within a mile. And then so now you're competing against all of these. You got 135, 116, 134, 140. I mean, does that make sense? Put it on the market for 145. Ask the bank for a short sale. Ask them for it now.
Yeah.
Because that's a way for you to get a transaction in.
I don't know if my sister's gonna relapse, but they can go see you, my sister might say, or she's not going to agree to it, or I more files over it.
It could be either way though, because if it's showing up on, does it show up on her credit at all? You need to get that clarification because even a VA loan, a wife or spouse still signs. Did they buy the house together? Well, if they bought the house together, then they both are going to get affected.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He needs the house farm now, because he has.
Well, so you were saying earlier that it's not under her name, but it is under her.
It is the green, I think it's.
It's still going to affect them both because the collection is community property. It's going to go after them both. Well, a short sale is better than a foreclosure. He took an adjustable loan.
No, we came up to an agreement, I think I illegal,
Huh?
I think, see, I think all this, I want, limit my understanding.
So
The individual, that's the individual, the
Yes. It's like, I mean, not record this. No, I did. I paused it online. Y'all don't need to be hearing some of the things I say off the recording. Okay, let me go ahead and get started back up. All right, so we just ran a couple of comms. I answered some questions. And let's just go back to the contracts. All right. All right. So we talked about parties and how to get that done and how to get your formation documents. At least all you need is one contact information. I typically ask for the email address. Okay. Property description, you're just going to pull off the legal description. Make sure you get the address right. Y'all can list multiple listings on one. You can list up to 4 particular addresses on one listing contract. So if there's a duplex with a letter, a triplex or a quadplex, you could list it on here. Anything over is commercial. Okay. So you can do lot 1, block 2, units A, B, C, and D, address 123 Bluebird Lane, units A, B, C, and D. Does that make sense? Okay. Learn that improvements, and we're going to go over this in exclusions very thoroughly. I learned this the hard way. Sold Stephen's house and didn't know that the curtains go with it. So, or the curtain fixtures. Yeah. Oh, he took them down. And then he was mad because we had to leave it. Right here. Window shades, draperies, and rods stay as part of the house. I did not know this. Yeah, he was not okay. But I wasn't the agent either. It was a new agent at another brokerage, and he made a lot of mistakes. So but I wasn't licensed at the time, and that was one of the reasons why I did get licensed, because we did hire somebody else to sell Stephen's house. It was not cool. Exclusions list. All of y'all have an exclusions list. If you're listing land, vacant land, you can remove this. Owners Association, this is for mandatory membership. As the listing agent, I would go ahead and get the HOA doc sign. We're going to get to it in a little bit, and I will go ahead and upload it just to be clear of I want the buyers to pay for it. As listing agents, we want you to have it. As buying agents, we don't want you to ask for it. Does that make sense? As a listing agent, I want you to have the HOA document uploaded online. We're going to go over it. As a buying agent, if the listing agent didn't upload it, I don't want you to ask them for it. I want you to fill out your own so that way you can get it on your buy side. But I'm teaching for sellers now. You can still draft your own. Listing begins on. Okay, so let's just say today is Monday. And I have a listing. I have a $4 million listing coming up, and I'm like, And what I'm not going to do is write today's date when I send the contract. I'm going to calculate the days out that I need. So I'm actually going to go into .loop, and I'm going to pick a future date, because if I don't pick a future date, it's going to make me list it today. And that means I have 5 days from this day, the 4th of April, to get it up on the market. What do I have to do once I get this listing agreement? Photos, right? By the way, for those of y'all who haven't done photos, cost $200 to $500 up to $1,000 for photos, drone images, and videos. If you want to become a listing agent, your sales signs are between $150 to $300 up to $1,000 if you're in commercial real estate. And then you need to market your property. It depends on if you're doing mailers, prints, newsletters, open houses. There's a lot of costs associated with being a listing agent. So when you're listing a property, make sure you have some money set aside to invest in it. So we're never going to list for today's date because one, what if the photographer can't do it today? So you're not going to get your pictures tomorrow. You still have to go put your sign up. What if you didn't order your sign? What day of the week are we going to put it in? Well, I can't put it up by Wednesday. Well, let's see. Today is what day of the week is it? Monday? Monday. I typically like to list on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Okay. I like to make my listings go active on a Wednesday or Thursday. Problem is, today's Monday. If I order my photography today, I might get it tomorrow or Wednesday. I might be super busy on Wednesdays with interviews and I don't have time to put it up. But then I also have a sign that I've got to put down and I'm too busy Tuesday and Wednesdays. I've already preset my appointment. The earliest I can get out there is Friday to put down a sign. I don't want to do that, right? So what I'm going to do is tell my client, hey, I want to list your house on a Wednesday or a Thursday. And since today's Monday, I'm going to need to go ahead and order all these things. Let's get the listing agreement down. I'm going to start putting it into the MLS. Maybe I'll set it as a coming soon. But what I'll do is I want to make it active on April the 9th. Is that good with you? Yes? Good. I told them exactly what I wanted, what I plan on doing, and then I didn't give them many options. I didn't say, when would you like me to list the house? Tomorrow? No. I gave them exactly what I want to do, and I told them exactly what day, and their answer is yes or no. Not April 15th or April 2nd or whatever it is, okay? When you need to give a close-ended question, why are we selling the home? What are we, why are, is there going on with the house? Is it a distressed property? Tell me what's your story. Where are we moving to? And things like that. Open-ended question. We can sit and listen all day. But if it's something that I need that is going to work for me, I'm just going to spit it out. I'm going to give you a yes or no. Okay. April 9th? Yes? Okay, good. We're going to go ahead and list it on April 9th. And I'm going to be doing a lot of marketing and I will give you 6 months on it. Okay. Most of y'all want a year, especially in this market. Y'all go for the year. Go for the year first. I'm asking for 6 months because I really don't want a listing over 6 months. The commission is already there. I don't negotiate my commission. If I do, it's going up, not down. Okay. For those who are variable commission, let's just say that Tiffany has a $700,000 listing. I'm putting it out there for you, Tiffany. You get a $700,000 listing and they want to go buy, they want to downgrade, they want to buy a $500,000 house, right? Tiffany says, look, I'll give you a break on your commission on the sales side as long as I can get your buyer's rep signed today. And I'm going to take my 3 commission plus whatever bonuses they get on the buy side. I'll give you a 1% break since I'm representing you on both sides. Okay. However, typically, if I bring in the buyer, I will give 4% if listing, and this is really important, guys, don't put broker. Okay. If listing agent is representing buyer, 4% if listing agent is representing buyer. That allows you to bring in one of your buyers, or you can work with the buyer. Okay. You don't have to represent the buyer. You can still do the paperwork and earn your 5%. You don't have to do intermediary. That's in legal class. I've taught y'all that if you don't have a buyer's rep, you're technically not representing the buyer. So this limits you to you having another buyer that you just brought to the house. Okay. But let's just say you do an open house, and we've taught this in legal. Open house, somebody walks in, you're not representing them technically. You're just doing the paperwork for all parties. Okay. Now, if you want to be ethical and nice and polite, see the difference? If 4%, if listing agent is representing buyer, if buyer is unrepresented. So that covers them on both sides. A lot of y'all, I just tell y'all, you have to put this, and then you can still represent the other party. Okay? And you still get your 5%. There is a huge difference in the verbiage here. Now, this is called variable compensation. We no longer have to disclose it. So back in the days, we used to say, hey, I can bring a buyer, you can bring a buyer, but if my buyer has a lower price, but I want the seller to go with my client, and then we just renegotiate the deal, then we're going to renegotiate the deal, but I'm letting you know that I'm probably going to earn a different commission versus the original agreed upon. Okay. This is about the only instance that I encourage y'all to go ahead and renegotiate your commission. Aside from that, if you're only doing the one side of the transaction, take your whole percentage and ask for the percentage to be paid to the other party. Okay?
What about these, already the contract of the inside and I even with one of the 4% requires for the city.
You can amend your listing later only if you're willing to. Not the seller can request all day, but you don't have to do it. Okay?
But I didn't, still get the, because I told them that verbally.
You got to write, you got to put it in writing, because when we audit your contracts, we're looking at the percentage that's on the contract. So we show that you were supposed to take 5% or 6% and you only took 4%, we're going to be wondering where the other percentage is gone if there's no amendment to the contract.
So what I feel like
You need to amend your listing agreement.
is,
Yep. Okay. So with that, I do encourage y'all, especially in this market, if you're taking that listing, open up that door for a great conversation. Okay. Because why? That's $1.2 million that Tiffany's gonna earn money off of, right? So it's okay if she's taking a little less on the bigger transaction and taking a little bit more on the buy side. Maybe they go buy a brand new property and there's a $20,000 BTSA. She gets to knock that all out. Okay. And then can I get a referral? And then she gets another $600,000 referral from their friend, because what happens? People who spend or live in a certain household income, they have friends that buy and sell in that same bracket. So 500, and 700, $600,000 referral is what you're going to get. Sounds good? And that's how we do business. Ask for the referral. Broker compensation is not payable if sale property does not close. Other fees are reimbursable expenses. So let's just say they're like, I only want you to list the property for 3 months, right? Only want you to list the property for 3 months. Well, then what we're going to do is we're going to tell you, if you are giving me a short-term listing and I'm paying $1,000 for marketing expenses, I'm going to charge you $1,000 for early termination right here. Okay? So that's just if you guys are really going the extra mile, you can have them reimburse you for whatever it is. But you need to line item it right here. So, protection period. A lot of agents don't understand this. 90-day, 30-day, what does that do? Well, Rocio brought a client over and now she's coming back after we terminated the contract, and the buyer wants to buy the listing on my house. And I failed to register Rocio or her client. I don't know who her client is, and I don't even know that she came by the property. I didn't pull a prospect list. I didn't do a marketing list. They closed on the deal, and I just lost out on my 3%, right? I did all the marketing. She came while the house was listed, but she bought after the house was terminated. Now, the way you avoid that is this is your 30-day, 60-day, 90-day. For whatever reason, where you sell the home to anybody that's walked through the house or anybody I've marketed to or anybody that's seen it on my social media, you're still going to pay me a commission, but you have to register it. I have to give Danielle, my seller, a list of the 20,000 people that looked at my Facebook page, that clicked on the listing, and then the 60 agents that took a look at the property. If any of those agents submit a contract on a buyer that they saw or whatever it is, I'm going to claim that commission. Does that make sense? When you terminate or at the end of the listing. Does anybody have any questions on that? It has to be in writing. It's a registration and it has to be submitted 10 days after this listing. I have had sellers listing agents called me and said, "Hey, that's my client." I'm like, "Okay, well, did you send them a list?" Because I asked for this list and they're like, "What list?" And that's how they learn about the list. Yep. Yes. Yep. Only if you registered that other agent or that buyer at an open house or whatever it is. Can I have that bottle of water? Is it open?
There's a lot of people like.
We're only 17 minutes in, and I just so much information, y'all. We're always going to list it on the MLS unless the client is, say, I don't know, The Rock, the actor. I can't think of any celebrities right now. My brain has it. If they want their information to be confidential, then we're not going to list it on the MLS. A lot of times in that luxury market, those properties aren't listed on the MLS anyways. They're private sales. They go back and forth. You list it on our website, or it's sold via a friend or a neighbor or whatever it is. It just stays off the MLS. And there's a way to actually get credit for it on the MLS. There's a little chip box that says "Do not post to MLS," and you just check that box, and it's confidential information, but allows you to receive the credit for the house. Whereas in the past, that box was never there. So we would do kind of an internal sale, or for sale by owner would never go up in the market. Does that make sense? One of the things that I ran across recently was, I don't know which agent it was. They called me and said, "Hey, my listing just went under contract. The buyers wants me to terminate the listing." And I said, "Why?" "Well, they're going to flip the property." I said, "Okay, so they don't want that information to be shown on the MLS, how much they bought the property for, so that way they can sell it for 3 times as much tomorrow." You get it. And so the conversation I had with her was, "Well, when's closing?" Like, "Okay, in 14 days." I said, "Well, tell him that uh, I'll terminate your listing once we close instead of tomorrow or the next day." Why? Does anybody know? Why would I want to wait until after closing? What'd you say, Tiffany? No, it's not just that. You're going to get compensated anyways. It's going to show up as terminated anyways. What you don't want is for the deal to fall through and you just terminate it and now you got to put it back on. So I told her, have the conversation with the sellers and say, "Look, I'm working for my seller, the buyers, and say, I'm working for my sellers. I want to leave it on, and once we close, I will terminate it and I won't get any credit for it. It's okay. And I'm going to make sure it doesn't pop up on the MLS with the sold numbers. And I know what you're trying to do with that." So with that, and if they object, say, "If I was representing you and you are doing the same thing, I protect you in the same way I'm protecting my sellers right now, because I understand the way it works. If for whatever reason this transaction falls through, then I'm still protecting my sellers from having all these calls coming in from all these other buyers. And I ensure that it has closed prior to hitting the terminate button, because it doesn't look good on our end if we terminate and relist it right away." Does that make sense? So I kind of taught her, like, this is an opportunity for you to talk to that buyer about relisting all the lots that he's buying right now, because probably nobody's having that conversation with him and they're just immediately terminating as soon as he makes a request. Does that make sense? Because a lot of y'all would. None of us gets credit for it. We don't get credit on the MLS for it. That's it. No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect your commission. It's still pending. It looks like a for sale by owner. Yeah, it turns into an off market listing, but I mean, a lot of agents will automatically just turn it off, not realizing the consequences. But if you're able to clearly explain that to the buyers, they're going to be like, out of all the 20 agents we spoke to, you're the first one that pointed that out. Yeah, we'd like to work with you. Yeah. Um, so you're going to fill it out. Showing Smart is the company we want to use. We always want to use a key box, and we only want to use a Supra. I have a listing right now where there is a Supra and two combination locks. And then I can't remember what the combination of the other lock is. But with that being said, uh, I leave a Supra on the front door, or if it's occupied, then I leave it on the side or back door. For a vacant property that I know needs work, I also leave a combination lockbox somewhere in the back that's hidden away from everybody. So that way people can't just go in and unlock it. But I always have an extra key in case an agent loses the key while they're showing. I don't have to drive all the way out there. I've actually had a lot of agents lock themselves out. Their phone didn't work, they forgot to update it or something, and then I'll whisper in their ears when they call me. I'm like, go all the way to the back under the bushes and find this key here. Here's a code, and then just make sure you put it back. At least I still have a record of whoever called me to get that information. So if it's lost, I know who to go to. Does that make sense? So, but you always want to have a lockbox, and you always want to use a Supra, because combination locks, if you press enough buttons, the door opens. Okay. Figured that out last week. Intermediary status, you are authorized to do intermediary as long as you check with me. Market the property with the following options: conventional VA, cash, FHA. Know enough about the homes and the requirements before you check all the boxes, because we naturally want to check all the boxes. But if we have a house with a bad roof, bad foundation, bad windows. I know, I always think windows for you, Miss Lydia. Electrical, plumbing, and I believe I covered most of it. Found those items. It's going to not pass a VA inspection or FHA inspection. Okay. You can place a for sale sign as soon as the property as soon as you put the property as coming soon, it's within the 24 hours. These questions we used to skip over.
Excuse me, on that, when you have the listing on the MLS that's coming soon, and you put the sign up, you can put for sale already, or you have to put coming soon?
You can put for sale.
Um,
As long as it's on the MLS and it can be found by a real estate agent, you can list it as for sale, for lease, or whatever it is. Okay, so this section right here, back in the days, not so important. We still ask the questions, but nowadays a lot of people are there are a lot of distressed properties. Ask them, hey, and don't say, hey, are you are you behind on your taxes or your mortgage? That puts me in a place. If you ask something like that, it's offensive. So one of the ways you can have this conversation is, so in this area right here, I need to make sure that everything's paid up, right? So, have you paid for your 20 is your 2025 taxes paid up, or 2024 taxes paid up on all your HOA dues are going to be prorated at closing. So I need to know if you've already paid, or if the buyers is going to pay it up and then you're going to reimburse them. So being able to explain that in such a non-offensive way is great. But if you know somebody, if you know them really well, just say, hey, is there anything that's overdue or late? Still a little offensive, but you know, a lot of people don't, when you ask that question, they don't want to answer you in general. But if you ask them, is your 2024 taxes paid? Is your 2024, 2025 HOA dues have been paid? I need to know because they're all getting prorated. All right. I just need to make sure your mortgage is up to date. Are there any additional liens? Maybe you have some contract work done that might be listed on the property. Those are very non-offensive ways of asking, instead of, you know, are you super behind on everything? Does that make sense? So having good conversation. I mean, there's a lot of times when I'm talking to y'all, y'all are like, did she say that? And I can be really offensive, But I'm teaching y'all like this is how people are. But when we're having conversations with certain people, asking them, is there any type of distress on the property? It could distress to them could mean anything, right? But if you keep it open-ended and ask, um, I'm so excited to list your home. Could I ask you why you're listing, what area you're moving to? Because that opens the door to the why. They can answer your question and it can be open-ended. Short sale, foreclosure, I'm going through a hard time. I just lost my job, death in the family, whatever it is. Okay. So you left it open. And then the other thing is, what was I gonna say? Uh, what was the other question I asked besides distress? Anybody remember? I just said it. Where are you moving to? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Have you sold before? Is this your first time selling your house? Because it could have been the first time. That way you know to walk them through the steps. But where are you going? Because what? If they're moving out of state, you can, do you have an agent there or have y'all already been searching? No, we don't. Do you have somebody? You can make a referral fee, or if they're moving across town, you can represent them on both sides of the transaction and give them a break here. Okay, make sure you answer those. Some of those questions, they really do need to be open-ended to give you guys room to have the good conversations. Okay. Mud utility district, they should be able to find do that with you. Relocation, right now, you guys don't have to put anything there, but eventually we're gonna start working with relocation companies. And that means you're gonna hear me every single time you do a listing. Is this a reload? Because reloads will give you a high amount and a low amount, and if you get somewhere right above that low amount, they'll take it, which is really, really cool because if you are buying on the buy side, I always tell you I'll go like $60,000 down and see if they'll take it. And if they say no, that means we're way too off. But if you're within like $5,000 to $10,000 range, they may give you a bottom line number and then you just move forward with like the best deal for your clients. Reloads are very expensive homes being dumped. And they're owned by these corporations that don't want to own them. Okay. So, oh, they will, because the packet that comes with it is like 100 and something pages. So someone, and I'm gonna say this out loud. When when we do turn on the reload, you have to be very thorough. Much as painful as it may be, Renee will probably be asked, "Hey, Renee, I'd like for you to be on the list to learn about reloads." She's not that paper. I'm just messing with you. But she asked a lot of questions. One, it's really fantastic. When you're doing reloads, you got to ask a lot of questions, but thorough with the paperwork. She will never, ever miss a line. It's a compliment. I just said it in the painful way. But she never, ever misses a line. Never, ever misses a line on anything. So she will go through and check everything. And that's what we need because the last thing, y'all saw how many tests I have to take. I've already put out, I think like $6,000 just to set up some of the relocation companies, and they're not even on yet. And we have to sign up for organizations. If y'all mess up on a contract or miss a line or don't ask the right questions to me, I might lose that relationship with that company, and I don't want to lose that relationship. So I'm going to make sure that you're thorough. And so, yes, Renee, I'm going to be asking you. No, I'm just messing. It's not painful for me at all. Y'all can ask as many questions as you'd like, but I want to point it out because when we work with her, she's always like, "I'm sorry, I'm asking so many questions." I always tell you guys, the more questions you ask, the better it is for your business, right? Did I ever complain about you asking questions? That was the first time I mentioned you. Yeah, it's okay. I used to be patient with her too, so all good. Does anybody else have any questions? So IABS seller's disclosure should always be included unless it's being sold to a child or an immediate relative, or if it's inherited property, a probate, if it's in a short sale foreclosure, if it's owned by the government or a bank, REO property. Oh, I got 9 of them. Where's the rest? There's 11 reasons why, but I just knocked out 9 of them. There, y'all can look it up or ask me. Tax sale. There's only one more. Now I'm annoyed because I can't remember the last one, but there's only 11 items that would allow you not to get a seller's disclosure. And typically, if you call me, I'm going to be able to tell you off the top of your head. Seller's authorization to disclose and advertise certain information. We have it set up to for the commission agreement. However, if they say I am behind and I need this home sold now and it's a short sale or whatever and they're okay with it, you can put it down as super distressed property, like short sale, because it's already going to be in the disclosures, but you can actually type it out in the agent remarks and also market it to the public as a great short sale opportunity or a great short sale, a great home that's going through the short sale process. Okay. No, it makes it more attractive. No, it makes it more attractive because if you're buying a $400,000 home that's going through a short sale, that means that the bank is willing to take less than $400,000 for that home to let it be sold. And let's just say they only owe $300,000 on it, but they can't pay any of the mortgage left. They were willing to sell it for 300, 280. I think percentage is like 15% less. So let's just say you can buy the house for like 270 and get yourself a $400,000 home. A lot of people don't understand the buy or sell process, and that's the reason why I'm like, hey, you guys need to learn how to do this because you can look at a short sale and come in lower because they have a low amount that they're going to do. And if you're already experienced in selling it, then you should know how to negotiate the deal and know where the bottom line numbers are. Does that make sense? We just learned something cool, huh? All right. We have our seller's exclusion list and then our supplemental seller's disclosure. We're going to go through that. And then the most important thing is foreign taxes. Title company should handle this, but let me tell you something. Sometimes they miss it, and your buyers end up having to bring that $15,000 or pay that $15,000 when they file taxes next year because the seller failed to tell you. So it's always important. Ask you, are you considered a foreign national? They're going to say yes or no. All you got to do is ask that question. They're going to be, what do you mean? Are you a U.S. citizen? When you purchase this house, were you a U.S. citizen? Okay. Yes. Are you sure? Like, okay, let me go and check your ID now. But it should be yes or no. If it is a no, the title company needs to withhold their taxes at closing. So let's just say they're supposed to get $100,000 at closing. They're now getting only $85,000 at closing or whatever the percentage amount is. Okay. But the taxes are going to be held by the title company. Title company needs to get that paid. Does that make sense? Call FERPTA taxes. Okay. Try to get a title company to come in here and teach us all about FERPTA taxes. All right. That's just our information right there.
And what happens for, let's say the title company withholds the amount that they consider
FERPTA.
necessary, and then supposedly they send it to IRS or
The seller can file a claim or the buyer can file a claim with the title company. If they didn't do it, they need to come up with the money to do it. You can file a claim against them. You can get an attorney and sue them.
or you have to give it a first.
What's that? No, typically you do it personally, but if they're not like helping you out, you sue them.
Yeah,
It's a simple question.
yeah, this
You-
happens with-
Yeah, you call the title company. That's the one we talked about.
Yeah.
You provide the information, show it as evidence. They have to address it as soon as possible. And if they don't, you sue them. Because now your clients are backwards. And then for time wasted and penalties and things like that and attorney fees, every title company is insured very, very well. So marketing and commissions, this came about because of the NAR. So we put this out and said, hey, we're going to take your money. We can do whatever we want with it. And that's exactly what this says. So this is just for market. It basically says, hey, we're taking your money. We're either going to pay the other agent. We're going to market it. We're going to buy a sign. We're going to go have drinks with it. We're going to do whatever it is. But it's our money. You've already agreed to pay for it. And we addressed this a year and a half ago or almost a year ago when the NAR lawsuit went through. We went ahead and went proactive with that. So that's that. Your seller authorization, I already mentioned it, includes your commission amount. If a buyer calls me and says, hey, how much commission? I'm going to go ahead and disclose it to the buyer's agent or the buyer, whoever's calling to ask me for it. Sounds good? All right. This is the MUD authorization. You called me and asked, but if you guys have a MUD or a PID district and you need the form and you can't just easily download it off the site, everything should be accessible online now, right, Trisha?
Yes.
All the MUDs should be accessible, easily accessible online, but if for whatever reason it's not, you can fill out the form. It's like a permission slip, and then you can obtain it from the MUD district itself. But when this issue became a thing, all the MUDs were required to load up their MUDs online, and only about 60% did so at that time, but I think we're almost like at 95%. I think there's only been a handful of MUDs that haven't been, we can't find the information for, right? Yeah. So all new agents or any agents that just need a really good refresher, pull your general information to notice and notice the buyers and sellers out and just read it. This is the coolest thing that you will find in your package that will educate you on everything. So if a client says, I don't know what the statutory tax district means. Well, I'm sorry. I sent you the general notice to buyers and sellers, and you signed off on it. I have your signature right here. I asked you if you had any questions on the forms, and you said you didn't. But it says right here, the property may be located in utility district or, MUD, PID, or water improvements, all of those things. So all your terminology for your real estate is actually right in here. And it's really great education. Okay. But you're going to go ahead and get this initialed and signed. Your wire fraud is, just make sure your clients, if you're representing the seller, don't provide anybody except the title company with your wiring instructions. If you get an email from the title company at 11 o'clock at midnight or 11 o'clock or at midnight the day before closing or the weekend before closing, don't respond to it, forward it to me, let me verify it. You should always pick up the phone, speak to the person you've built a connection with or have a relationship with at that title company and give them that information, or you can bring the wire information to the title company so that way they can wire your funds. Because the last thing we want you to do or we want to happen is for your $500,000 to go to an offshore account, right? Yep. Oh, she worked at the sheriff's office. He's he well, he's doing something right now. I don't know what he's doing, but he's working with the legal people too. Right? Yeah, see, I got half of it right, and I've been with him forever, and I'm still trying to figure it out. Mold. Okay. Number one reason why anybody or any real estate company or a seller is getting sued for right now is mold. Who's the builder with the mold? Perry too? LGI Perry, Coventry Home, mold guys. So we kind of want you to tell everybody, including the sellers, hey, by the way, if there's a possibility of mold, you need to get it treated and remediated. Hey, buyers, you should get your home inspected for molds and treated and addressed. And if mold comes up, we might not want to live there. Okay? Renee knows. She spent how many years? 3? 3 years. 4 builders. Oh, it's so fun. Seller's disclosure. The only thing you are allowed to do is put the address on the property and you hand it to your clients and you let them fill it out on .loop or fill it out by hand. And if it's incomplete, you say, hey, you missed this. You missed this area. Could you please check it? Don't check it for them. Make them check it. Okay. Make their hands go on the paper and check it. All right. If they edit it after, have initials next to it, but every single line should be marked yes, no, or unknown. If it is an investment property, it still has to be provided. Okay. If it's no, you do not coach them through this because if you coach them wrong, you're liable. Okay. It's do your homework, do this alone. I'm not helping you with it.
So they don't know.
You can look it up and show them, well, this is what I have here on the FEMA map. But aside from that, they need to answer on their own. Okay. The supplemental seller's disclosure, this, guys, has a little bit more information. This is more mold related questions as well as, hey, we're going to be shooting videos and doing social media and taking videos on your property. Are you okay with that? And we're going to allow other agents to do it. Yes. Okay, good. Because if they check no, we can't host open house videos. We can't do any kind of videos, and you need to be very careful with having your drone images or even your video tour uploaded online. So we always encourage yes for getting permission for the electronic tours, permissions, imaging, and transmissions. Does that make sense? And by the way, y'all, this was before AI. So I had to type all that out myself. This is exclusions list. Yes. Yes, we have a few. Exclusions list, y'all. The only thing your clients needs to do is sign and initial this unless they are planning to leave some things or they're planning to rip out all the lights or the fire or anything that's supposed to be attached. So all of these, because I've actually seen this where y'all all checked it. I'm like, no, you don't check it. These are all built-in cabinets, chandeliers. So, hey, well, we're going to sell the house, but we don't want to sell the chandelier. We're going to take that when we leave. If you mark it here, you can take it. If you don't mark it here, you can't take it. Also down here, we did you a favor. Hey, none of this is going, even if it's in the photos, the refrigerator, washer, and dryer, because technically those items, they don't go with the property. We went ahead and said none of this is going with the property unless you either pay for it or add a non-royalty item addendum. Okay? So that's your exclusions list. T47 needs to go with your survey. P.S. Do not upload your surveys online. It's no longer authorized. It is a copyright violation. Does that make sense?
No.
You may not upload the survey online any longer on any listings because it's a copyright is a copyright infringement. The surveyor, I'm the surveyor. I gave Rocio a survey and I said, here, Rocio, you pay for it. Here's your survey, right? And Rocio goes and sells the house to Trisha or goes to sell the house and uses Trisha as a listing agent. I'm sorry. Trisha lists the house and she uses the survey and she puts it up online and says, hey, we have a free survey. The surveyor wrote that survey, and on the survey, by the way, every survey, it actually tells you who that survey belongs to. Survey belongs to the surveyor and the person who paid for it, not the other person. So technically, she doesn't have any rights to use it to resell it or to give it as an incentive because it is a thing of value on the contract because it's worth between $4 to $6 up to thousands of dollars on a survey. she's giving it away for free, where I'm like, hey, you're giving my survey away and I can make another $200 just by restamping it and putting the buyer's name on it, right? Surveyors are losing money, so they went after real estate agents that says you can no longer reuse it, but that's advertising incentive. But I can write a contract and she can just send it over and she can redirect it to parties 3, 4, and 5 via email and just say, hey, we haven't made any changes. If you guys accept it, great. If not, then we'll return it and get another one. Does that make sense? So with correct. Yes, you can tell because you're swearing that you have not made any changes to the contracts. It's an affidavit. I'm giving y'all a break right now, and y'all can come back at 2 o'clock and we'll finish the class with the 1 and 4 contract. Was this helpful? It's a lot of information. I don't know. But you guys know that I do dump a lot of information in a short amount of time. So these classes, people typically teach like hours and hours. I did it already. I just did it.
Are we, you record that, are we able to go back and look at that? Or we've already done it? Okay.
Let me find out if I recorded it. I'm going to be so sad if I didn't. I am recording it. Okay. 1 o'clock. Okay. I need all the time in the world, y'all. I'm about to beat somebody up here.
You know, they were about 30 miles from where we stay. Oh. All right.
Austin has the airport.
No, I think she ended up posting. Yeah. Where I never go again.
Am I teaching anything good?
Excellent.
I'm so tired.
Yeah.
Classes.
You know why it takes them so long to teach the classes? Because they talk it like a past or course and talk about past. That's why you're in.
Other instructors are wrong, so. Pass out handouts.
Yeah, Rocio. Ray taught the buyer's rep class. Actually, I taught it. Was it legal 1 and 2? I taught twice.
Yeah, it was legal one.
Okay, yeah, because I felt bad about I got bifocals. Is that what they're called, right?
I think where they do the whole, like.
Oh, so this is not a bifocal? Oh, so I'm not a bifocal person yet. I was so depressed. Look, y'all, look how intelligent I look. Listen. Wow, Rosia. Woo, I look smart. Look, I'm gonna take a picture of me. No, I'm gonna take a picture of me on the screen. Look, Alyssa is on there too, Corey. Y'all, look how smart I look. That's because I'm only smart on most days.
Well, you know, something funny. I'm old situation.
What's
And everything,
mm-hmm.
and they put in a report that they don't smell like something in here, and so they clean their rooms, make sure nothing was in there, and they didn't come. So I sent them a nice little email, and told them, you can go check this out. And I don't remember who it did, so they didn't go. So I sent another nice little email, and it said, attention not building, our own mold inspection will be at the norm. We can send it out. 30 minutes for that, I know they were in for long. It's like, oh, it doesn't smell. I'm like, you might come in here and smell it, but it's there. I didn't it's there. So you can talk about it. And I can tell you what it's like. It's how quick they were there when I said, oh, by the way, I'm calling. I'm old inspector, I'm a real estate agent, and I'm used to this kind of stuff. And man, they were on like 1 hour. And they were reporting back to me and. And they're like, can you clean the carpets and all of the stuff that they should have done when there was a leak in the hall. But now they're doing, we'll see. They weren't happy with their eye health, and I'm like, we're still gonna have multiple look checks out. They go to headaches, they go to roads, and there was a smell coming from the heating area. And I told her, she's like, okay, if it's coming from my area, it's 100%. The heating area contact number or some mold specialist legally from the kitchen, but yes, and it's or something, and so who knows, we're gonna have and then you can see all the times to try to just because I started that's myself maybe. So it's so weird. It's outside already. I'm not going to remember. Yes.
Does anybody online have any questions? PK, are you learning something? Unmute your microphone, Chike.
Huh?
Hold on, let me do my teacher glasses.
I told one break.
You what?
No, I told one break. Right?
No, I'm asking, did you learn anything? Wait, hold on. I'm gonna put my glasses on so I can hear you. This is what my grandpa used to say that. I'm gonna put my glasses on so I can hear you.
Yeah, I left a lot today.
Good.
Yeah.
So does that mean that the listing agreement's gonna come back like I miss you? I'm like, I'm here for you to stalk me this week. You kept coming in while I wasn't here last or the week before.
Yeah, I'm still gonna come in, but I left a lot today, but I'm still gonna come in.
Okay, I have a 360 app that says Chike coming, run out the other door. Well, just let me know when you're coming so I can make sure I'm around or I can let you know because I don't want to make you wait like you did last time you go so far.
Yeah. I'll let you know if I come,
Okay,
when when I'm coming.
sounds good. Well, we only have one more contract to go through and y'all should be good.
So what is it like? 1 hour more? Is it gonna end
Yeah,
up quick?
it should only be about maybe 35 minutes. I just need to go through the 1 and 4 and show y'all what as a listing agent what you need to look for because I'm not going to teach you how to draft it, but I'm going to teach you what you need to be looking for when you accept a contract, and I'm going to teach y'all how to like negotiate properly and what to expect. No, Alyssa, you do well, it depends. What kind of credit are you asking for, Alyssa? Unmute your microphone. Chike, I'll see you later. Alyssa, unmute your microphone. Talk to me.
Well, yeah, basically, because how some new builds are listed, and if obviously if my buyer ends up getting a new build that isn't listed, there isn't really a way to have it recorded online that I, got a new build for my buyer.
So you can, if you submit, so I've learned this. So if you submit to HAR that you closed on the new build, they might give you credit for the amount. I'm not sure. I know we do. We give you credit. When we do your awards at the end of the year, we check on market and off market. So we actually compare. But you can capture reviews using Real Satisfied, which is via the Century 21 app, and you won't miss any reviews. But on the MLS, I think you have to actually submit, and the builder has to authorize it. But you can submit the settlement statement to HAR or reach out to HAR Quality Assurance and ask them if they'll be able to give you credit for the sale. It really depends. Okay. All right. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to get started. Before I get started, does anybody online have any questions for me? Ooh, there's quite a bit of y'all. Olga has this been helpful so far, Olga? She's like, why are you talking to me? I didn't come to class today so I didn't get called on. She's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm not even unmuting my microphone. I'm just gonna roll my eyes at you and laugh. Okay. Wait, you love me? I just asked if you love me. You said yes? She's like, no. All right. Dylan, did you learn anything? You hopped in a little bit later, yes? Jackie, Bernice? Okay, I need y'all to turn on your cameras if y'all are learning. All right, pop your cameras back on and let's get to it. All right, we are going to the 1 to 4 contracts. So y'all learned a lot in a very short period of time. 3 hours is a short period of time. I've heard that comps classes can last 3 to 4 hours in some places. I don't even know how it takes that long for comps. But we're gonna go through the 1 and 4, and we're gonna talk about what's most important for you as a listing agent. So technically, every single line should be completed if you're the listing agent, but how it's filled out and how you renegotiate this is very, very important. We are in a buyer's market, so just make sure that you're paying attention to your high, lows, and your final price point, as well as how many days close. I'm going to tell you where your important points are, okay? So parties of this contract is going to be seller's name, and it's going to be found off tax records, okay? So the buying agent should be able to find it. If they submit to you a contract that does not have the seller's name, 1, they're a new agent. 2, they're not being coached. 3, you can probably negotiate because they don't know what they're doing if they can't find the seller's information, okay? That's the very first sign that the agent does not know what they're doing is they don't have the seller's name on the contract. The buyer's agent should be able to get that information off of tax records. The only name they might not have if it's ABC Company and Bob White is a signer, maybe it does say ABC Company LLC, then they should reach out to you and say, hey, Sierra, could you tell me who's going to be signing on behalf of ABC Company? And that's when you know that you have a very good agent working on the other side to even ask you that question right there. And then the buyer's name right here, okay? So lot and block, you're going to find also in tax records. So anytime I am drafting a contract, what I always do is I go ahead and I open up the listing and I set it to the side. But we're teaching you on the on the sell side, not the buy side. A lot of the tax information should be here, but because they haven't even set this property, that's a bad example for me to use. This one right here, they should be able to click on taxes. That other agent should be able to pull all this information on their own, okay? They shouldn't have to call you for anything unless that seller's name is not listed, okay? So with that, go back to .loop. Exclusions, make sure you read this. It should always say see exclusions list if you are the listing agent, because we have an exclusions list and we're always going to attach it. So see exclusions list, okay? And that's where you're going to negotiate if there is a washer, dryer, chandelier, workout space, or anything like that. Does that make sense? Outdoor gym is a big thing since COVID. Cash portion to buyers at closing, that's how much cash you're bringing. Anything that's third-party financing, make sure you know their percentage down, okay? Is it 0%, 3.5%? So make sure you calculate that. As the listing agent, we're very accustomed to looking at the bottom number. Okay? If you get 2 contracts in, right? You get 2 contracts in and you're the listing agent and the bottom number is 350. You're like, yes, that's what we want, 350. Get 2 contracts in. Can anybody tell me why we would pick one contract over another? There are lots of reasons why we would pick one. Cash, right? So let's just say 350 here and $0 here. Strong offer, right? Another reason. Say it again. Good down payment. Very good. Let's just say it's $200,000 in, or I'm sorry, $100,000 in cash, and they just, for whatever reason, want to finance the other 200. Yep. Because isn't that better than the original 50,000 down or maybe 6,000 down? That makes for a stronger buyer, right? What else? Last thing, I mentioned it earlier. No. No, you're the listing agent and you're looking at a contract and they're both exactly the same price. When you're looking at those contracts, we just said it. All cash is great. More down payment. There's something else. I said it earlier. No. When you're looking at the whole contract, not just that amount. Ooh, that's always good. No concessions. The way the contract's drafted. If it's a good contract, it's going to be easier to work with that agent versus a sloppy contract with half your docs missing, don't you think? So, and the way you explain that to your clients is, hey, we got a really experienced agent and we got this rookie agent who we're probably going to work really hard for, and they don't even know what's happening because half the documents are incomplete. So maybe one's 360, maybe this is 350. I think we should probably, would you be all right if I countered this at 360? Let's go with the 360 with the cleaner contract versus 350, which was a highest and best. But it's going to be a lot of work and they might not get us to closing. Does that make sense? Yeah, just missing just basic information. So yeah, the faster closing days. There's a lot of reasons why, but I can tell you if I had multiple offers, I go with the cleaner offer with the agent that I can deal with. And I'm going to tell my clients, hey, and remember when we were in the seller's market and Karen was like number 4 down at the bottom, and they're like, your contracts came in good, your negotiation was good, everything was organized. I opened up your email and knew exactly what was going on. So I ended up working with you versus the 3 other offers, and they just countered and renegotiated her 4th offer versus the other one. Does that make sense? Okay. So as a listing agent, you need to make sure you check for title company address. Make sure that is, if you already open title, you can use it as your company. As a listing agent and as a seller, you can always renegotiate title. However, if they send you a solid contract and the only thing that you negotiate for is title. Everything's perfect. You're going to accept their offer and you send it back and say, I need you to change the title company to our title company if we're going to be paying for title. They can change it and then come back and see you later for a cost because the title is meant to protect the buyer, is meant to protect the past for the sellers, but the buyers should have the option to choose how they're going to be insured at all times. However, if you said, I want you to change it to ABC title and I want the price to be X amount of dollars, then you're not just negotiating title, you're still giving them the option for multiple things. But if you force them, and that's the only reason why you're going to accept their offer is that title at the end, they could hit you after. And a good real estate agent will say absolutely nothing, change it, and then you get a ding for it later and you end up having to pay for it out of pocket. It's painful. I haven't experienced it. I've heard the stories. Okay. Teaching y'all liabilities, but everything is negotiable in a contract. Yes. If the buyer can request changes all day. It's when the seller requires you to make that change and it's the only change that you're making in the negotiating terms. But if it's part of all the other negotiations, not a big deal. But if it's the only one, you can get hit. Seller can pay for the title or a buyer can pay for the title. But if you force them to use your title company, even if the seller is paying, you can get dinged for it. Are you representing the buyer or the seller? You're representing the buyer. Yeah, you can go, you could have talked to Southern Title and say, hey, is there a rule against this? And it's a little bit of work, but the, mm-mm. Yes. So we've always been taught that the sellers can choose, but in a seller, it's always been a seller's market, but it's always been the buyers that's been able to choose. And if you force it at the end, it can come back and bite you in the butt. You can choose your own title company. I teach y'all to choose a title company when y'all are representing the buyers, and I teach y'all to choose a title company when you're representing the seller. But I tell y'all, if y'all are representing a seller, make sure that's not the last item you're negotiating, and not that, and that you don't demand it or force it while you're at the end of negotiation. In the beginning, you can just list it out along with everything else, and they can renegotiate that. Because title companies may be affiliated with the broker or the brokerage or the builder or the owners, and then they can make more money. They do. Yep. As a listing agent, never take less than 1% earnest money as a buying agent. $5 works for me, but no. Never take less than 1% of earnest money and option fee. Now that we're in the seller's market, I wouldn't fight too much about 5 days, 7 days, or 10 days. Just let them, especially if your market's been sitting, just let them have it. 150, 200, 250, whatever it is. Get it worked out and just make sure you get that into contract, okay? But if you know that you're getting multiple offers, then shorter days is better and higher option is better, okay? So what I taught y'all 2 years ago is 100% different from what I'm teaching you today. Because back in the days, I said, hey, you know what? Make your offer stronger, add additional earnest money. Now I'm like, don't ask for additional earnest money. They just go down the street and buy somebody else's house, and we don't want that, okay? Sellers, we just check it. Sellers has always been natural for us to do that. But if you guys are dropping your price a lot, you can ask the buyers. Again, we're in a buyer's market. We're gonna take the hits and we're gonna explain it. Number six, ask if the buyers want it done, have the buyers pay for it. I don't care. Or just say will not be amended. Y'all can accept the survey the way it is, and we're not going to pay for any title changes regarding the survey. Okay. So as a seller's agent, either no amendment or buyers only. Survey, we're going to do the same. If you do not have a survey and and you're the listing agent, have them check number 2. Okay. Don't let them trick you and check number 1 5 days and check buyers, because if you don't provide the survey, your sellers are going to end up paying anyways. That's what it says right there. Does that make sense? Even if you check buyers, if you do number 1 and you check 10 days and you check buyers, the buyers only have to pay if the survey is not being accepted. But if you don't provide them a survey within the 5 or 10 days, then your sellers have to provide some sort of survey before it can be rejected. That's why you always call me and I tell you what to check. But if you're the seller, if you have no survey, number 2, okay? Number 1 is if you have survey, then you can check the buyers or sellers, but a lot of times the surveys do get approved. Objections. Aside from residential and lease, and even for lease, you need to check to make sure that their properties in that community may be leased, because some communities don't allow it. But let's just say they want to build an Olympic pool and they put it right there, or they want to raise chicken or goats. Before you accept a contract, get with title, look at the deed restrictions, and then accept the contract. Because if they want chickens and you say, oh yeah, the neighbors have chickens, and then you get the bylaws and the deed it says no restrictions or no chickens, then you screwed yourself because now you're locked into a contract that might end up disappearing or something like that, getting terminated, and you got to return the earnest money. Does that make sense? These contracts are buyer friendly. So as listing agents, you need to be thorough. Okay, must object 5 days, 7 days, or within 5 days of the cure period. It's if 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 there is an issue, the seller needs to resolve it by either asking for a deed restriction change, asking for permission, submitting documentation, or whatever it is. It's the seller's responsibility to cure the issue. Otherwise, the buyers get their money back. Understood? Mandatory membership, the HOA document is the one we're talking about. And actually, let me pull that up for you real quick. Mandatory. This one right here, this is the one, if you're the listing agent, I tell y'all to go ahead and get this pre-filled and have it so that way the buyer pays for everything. Okay. But also in that same instance, find out what the fees are going to be, the associated, any of the transfer fees, because the transfer fee, remember, all of us are used to writing 200, 250 right there because when we're representing the buyers. When you look at the listing agent, a good listing agent will call the HOA and say, hey, how much are transfer fees? And they're going to say $1,000. And the agent is going to put in $1,000. And that means the buyer is going to have to pay that $1,000. Whereas a lot of y'all are accustomed to just typing in this in. And then you don't realize that your seller now has to pay the $750 to get the home transferred over to them. Does that make sense? So you want the buyer to pay for everything. You don't want to submit anything. And you want to make sure you call the HOA and find out how much those transfer fees are. So that way your buyers don't have to eat the cost. You get your sellers to sign it and you upload it as part of the requirement. Up to that amount. Yep. And so when we're representing the buyer, we want it to be as low as possible. When we're representing the seller, we want it to be max and total of whatever is owed.
So if you do like 50 for the buyer, like you said, that's normal.
Uh-huh.
But if it is for the seller to
Correct. Yes. So if it's $1,000 and you're a buyer's agent, you can write like 250 or 100 or, leave it off completely. And then everybody has to renegotiate or figure it out. Does that make sense? So I'm teaching y'all how to be good listing agents. When I teach the seller's contract, yeah, everybody's like, you're schizophrenic. You said the exact opposite last time. I'm like, that's my job. But let me see. So HOA, make sure you check this. There is mandatory and voluntary. There are voluntary HOAs where you have to pay $200 or $300, but if you don't want to pay it, you don't have to. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but hey, I just want to give you $300 here. For what? I don't know. It's involuntary. I feel like gifting it. I don't know. But there are HOAs that do have voluntary dues that are $2, $5. I've seen like $600 voluntary. You don't have to pay. So Rocio may pay. Danielle says no. Tiffany may pay. Alex says no. It's really odd, but if it is involuntary, then you put is not subject to mandatory. Does that make sense? Because at the end of the day, the lender or the buyer is looking at that as an expense and they want to know, is it $1,000 payment a month or a year or $1,600 payment? Does that make sense?
So if it's voluntary, they put it's not a subject.
Correct. All right, this one, notices. The following notices have been given or attached to this contract. Water, utility, drainage, public, PIDs, everything. So this is fairly easy to handle. You can. Why didn't it open before? Did it not open before? Realist tax. I'm trying to get the taxes to open up for right here. Yeah, it's thinking too long. I don't like it when it thinks that long. We're almost done, y'all. I see the end. But I got to teach y'all, I taught y'all how to negotiate, how to have conversations, how to write the contracts, and how to run comps in 3 hours. Most people, they're trying to figure out life. It's so weird. Oh, here you go. So you can technically print to PDF this and provide the information to them. So right here, it says, here's all the extra taxes. But in additional to that, when there is a MUD, you need to go ahead, copy that in, type in MUD. Type in MUD. It's technically all of this, okay? But you got your flood control. These are all extra taxes. You can, and I'm going to allow y'all to do this, or okay. So that actually covers all of the information, but the MUD notice actually is a notarized document from the district. Okay, so I would prefer for y'all to pull that completely down. Pull that off the MUD district and attach it. Receive notice, buyer has not received notice and does not need to furnish it. We're now representing the seller. Every single one of y'all right now, listen to me. Do not ever allow a contract to be executed prior to getting the seller's disclosure executed to the buyer, okay, by the buyer. Now, let me explain that to you. I'm new and I got a listing. I'm so excited. I gave the seller a seller's disclosure. They're going to fill it out. 7 days later, they haven't filled it out. And then I got an offer in. I'm so excited. I got my offer in. We executed the offer. Oh, I forgot to give you a seller's disclosure. Contract's executed. Now I send the seller's disclosure. I am here. Okay. I am here. And this is what, read this. If the seller delivers a notice, buyer may terminate for any reason within 7 days after the buyer receives a notice prior to closing, or whichever is first. Now, let's just say that we had a 10-day option and I'm a new agent. I've been running around, I've been calling, I've been doing everything. And on day 6, I finally get that seller's disclosure over to Alex, the listing agent, who gives it to the sellers. Day 6. Okay. What's 6 plus 7? 13. How many option days did I give to them? 13. Right? So let's just say I'm a really savvy real estate agent and I pulled up a listing and there were no seller's disclosure and I send over no option. Get the contract executed because I knew that agent was not paying attention. I get the executed contract back. And by the way, here's the seller's disclosure. 5 minutes after we executed the contract, I get my clients to sign off on the seller's disclosure. And in day 6, I go to terminate the contract. Did I have to pay an option fee? No. Do I get my earnest money back? Yes. So what are we doing if we are listing agents? We're getting seller's disclosures and updating it, or when you find out that an agent is submitting an offer, you send that seller's disclosure to them as well as all seller documents to them. Or if they already sent you an offer with the signatures on it, you're going to send over the seller's disclosure and make sure those seller disclosure signatures are on there with the date with the date and time, today's date, 2/27. Email sent it back to you. You package it together, then you put it into a packet, and then you send it to your sellers, and your sellers execute it at 3:30. An hour later, does the buyer have the option to terminate using clause number 2 anymore? Yes or no? No, they do not. They follow the regular option terms. Does that make sense? So when you guys are the buyer's agent, what do? You hurry up and you try to go ahead and send it over. Don't get the seller's disclosure, go with number 2. But if you guys are the listing agents, you're going to go with number 1 always. You're going to tell that agent, I need you to check it. You receive the notice, send it back to me. Here's the notice, get everything, and let's get it executed and get it back. You want to make sure they have that seller's disclosure in hand prior to you executing the contract. Yes? Everybody makes sense? Yes. Thank you very much. You should never make it live unless you have all seller's disclosure. Don't follow my example, Rocio, don't say a word. But yes, it's a very good habit. You've got to be organized. And just remember, guys, we're going to go through the big loop. I'm going to show you. I'm almost done. So we'll get there, and then I'll show you how your documents are set up. And y'all going to be like, oh, okay, that's how your brain works. And then the third one is if they don't need it. And remember, even investment properties need it. It's only those ones that I listed, and there's no possible way for me to relist them right now. Buyers accept the property as is, or buyers accept the property only, or the buyers accept the property only if you agree to take my list price or my offer price plus building the fence around it with the exact description, or you fix that hole, or you fix that light, or whatever 10 things that's obvious at that moment, not including what you're going to renegotiate during inspection. Yes. We've got this. Residential service contract, as a listing agent, go ahead and accept the residential contract. Whether you pay for it or your sellers pay for it, get it. Okay. It saves you the headache from having to deal with the buyers calling and say, your stupid dishwasher broke the day after I moved in and your refrigerator won't turn on, or whatever it is. Get the home warranty. Home warranty only covers the appliances, does not cover the house itself. Disclosure, if you're related, married, cousin to, daughter, son, just put it on there. No. Married to, or on or before or within 7 days after any objections. Y'all, the closing date is on or before. If for whatever reason it's delayed a couple of days, if we're representing the seller, don't sign the extension. What did I just say? If you're representing the seller and if you're today and you're supposed to close today and the buyers want to extend till 3 days later, what did I just say? Don't sign the extension. If you're the buyer's agent, try to get the extension signed. But if you're the listing agent, to protect the earnest money and yourself and your sellers, don't sign the extension. Okay? Because you're out of contract already on that date. What happens is if you don't sign the extension, that buyer's agent will work a little bit harder to get the deal closed, and they may have to deposit more earnest money to you. If they may offer up more money, deposit earnest money, or try to do something extra to get to that end date. When you sign your extension, you lock your clients into more unknown days, because technically those 2 or 3 days may never happen. It's okay for you to put it back on the market. Say, look, buyer's agent, my broker said, I'm going to put it back on the market, but if you can close in 3 days, you bring all the paperwork and we get a clear to close and we'll move forward. You can do that. Okay. But if you do a release of earnest money forgot the release of earnest money part. But once it's past closing, the earnest money belongs to the seller. But if you sign an extension, the earnest money is in limbo. Does that make sense? If you're the buyer's agent, you want the extension signed all the time because when that extension is signed, it extends the life of any kind of attachment that you have because they may put it back up. You're still going to lose your earnest money. If you can't close on that date, you lose your earnest money. Does that make sense? Seller can do whatever they want. You can't dispute. Okay. Don't be a listing. You're representing your client. You want to do what's in the best interest for your client. But what if they do 10 extensions and you had 3 cash buyers on the sideline? You know, sometimes I kind of know what I'm doing. Okay, possession. I'm just messing with you. Possession upon closing or according to temporary lease. If you have a temporary lease form, you need to make sure that y'all fill that out if the sellers plan to stay or if the buyers plan to move forward. Listing agents. If we're a listing agent, do not allow anybody to move in prior to closing date. But my lease ends tomorrow and I just want to live there for the next 3 days. You sign the lease, and on day 2, they burn the house down. They're mean. They tried to bake a cake, and they burn the whole freaking house down. Y'all know that's true story. It can't bake. So imagine, I'm so excited. I'm going to bake a cake to treat myself for closing, and I burn the whole house down. Guess what? Guess who's not going to closing? I'm not going to closing. I'm not buying the house. I just burnt it down. But because you let me in, it's the seller's responsibility.
And
A buyer.
that moved into the landlord's house.
Oh.
And it's very similar. It was like the black box, the lady said, "Well, kids, you'll put it in the kitchen. You put it on the electric stove, and when he put it on there, turned the thing on, well, and it burned down our house."
So true story.
That's different.
Okay. So we've heard several of these. There's been like $500,000 homes, $800,000 homes that's been burnt down. That's why I use my baking as an example. So listing agents.
Insurance thing or no?
No, because unless you have renter's insurance, which you probably didn't call in to get renter's insurance, it doesn't cover it. Do you think the seller, it's only 3 days, nothing can happen. Do you think the seller wants to pay more to get renter's insurance and go through the hassle of doing an inventory of the house? Yes or no? No. As listing agents, the answer is no. No. You close on the house, then you can move in. Okay? Yes. They ask her all the time because their rent is up. We're closing on the 4th, the 5th. My rent lease ends on the 31st. Pay prorated rent. You should have put in an offer earlier. Okay, number 12 is the biggie. What does your broker tell you to do on number 12? B. What do you put there? You put nothing in there. Don't let them confuse you. Unless the other agent is not paying a commission, you always get your registration between broker first, and then you negotiate the difference in the contract, right? So if you sign for 2, you ask for the 1, or if you sign for 2, you're going to ask for 2 more. Or like Rocio, she likes to just ask for 5. Okay? But B has to do with your commission. C has to do with repairs. So if you take away the commission spot, this has always been there. That's our old contribution to buyers. So if it's a $10,000 contribution to repairs, that's where we put it on C. Does that make sense? Yes. In B, What are we gonna put in B? Nothing. If you are the listing agent, you really should go ahead and negotiate prior. And as a listing agent, we don't want anything there anyways, unless you've already explained to your sellers, hey, by the way, you're going to pay this at closing. Okay. Because now instead of seeing a commission in just one spot, they're going to see a commission in 2 spots. And that's going to piss off some sellers. Miss Lydia asked a question. Yeah.
About 40% or 2.5%.
And just do your broker agreement in the beginning and knock it out there and make sure nothing is there. If you're the listing agent and you signed an agreement between brokers for 3%, and then you got some goober agent who's a buying agent who plugged in 3% and you failed to notice that, that's how much you're paid. 6%, 3% from the listing agent, 3% from the sellers. Correct. Yes. One is being paid by the listing agent and the other one's being paid by the seller. That's why so many people are so confused about number 12. And that's why I keep training you guys this. And that's why y'all love me, because there are so many agents right now that are so confused by number 12. So many. I see it. I'm like, y'all goofers. It does not. It's here and here. So if you 2% only, I said, okay, you got your 2%? Yes, I did. Because she almost didn't get any percent. You got 2%. I said, okay, now go ahead and write the 1% over here. What's that do? You got 2% from the listing agent and 1% from the seller. Because a buyer does not want to pay the 1%. And so you're telling the seller, hey, if you want me to take this, you need to pay my agent the 1%, and you still need to pay your agent what you promised them to pay. But my agent got me to sign a 3% contract. I'm not making up for the difference. Ooh, you're so cool, Lisa. Okay, whatever. All right. Number 21. What did I tell y'all not to do here? Not to put anything. Yes. Try. You know, it's funny. TAR won't respond to me, but whoever read my email is going to take credit when this part gets removed. I don't want y'all to put any information in here except your own or the agent's information. And the reason why is there's so much fraudulent information right now that the buyers or the sellers are capturing each other's information and they're sending messages directly to the buyer. Hey, wire X amount of money pretending to be a title company. So we've had so much fraudulent information or fraudulent things happening that we don't want the information there. And we'll just go straight to the title company's portal and provide that information to the title company. Does that make sense? Yeah, but if I have your email, Renee Tillman, at gmail.com, and then 2 days before closing, I send you an email, wiring instructions here, blah, blah, blah. Everything's identical to the title company. Title company is already listed on the contract. And the fraudulent person is actually the buyer who's willing to give up the $1,000 to take the $800,000 in cash, wire a couple of days. Would you give up your $1,000? Yes. And then you send a fraudulent email and then I get my $800,000. Guess how much money I lost? $1,000. No, their name's already on the contract. You don't put any contact information. You don't want these people to call your clients or email your clients. Yeah, you can send it directly to the title company, but the title company is already going to ask you for the information. Yeah. Don't do it on the contract anymore. It's not cool. So I've asked TAR to remove that section and hopefully they listen to me because there's so much fraud going on right now. Third party. So here's all your documents. And if you have tax information or notice to purchaser, Notice to purchaser.
But in it, it's true. Because already listed in the contract.
Yeah. Because, yeah, just to make sure, because these are where all the attachments are. So your third party financing addendum. So all of that. And then make sure you fill out your information. And you are the seller represent as the seller's agent only. Okay. And then right here in my little commission, I got 1% up here and I got 2% down here. So I got 2% plus the 1% title company looks at it as 2% from the listing agent and the other 1% from the seller. So it's going to come from two separate payments to Century 21 Lucky Money Real Estate. Does that make sense? Not if you have an agreement between brokerage. Okay? Correct. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Those are your contracts. Okay. That was a lot of information. All right. Drop me a review. I don't know what page this is. This will just kind of rotate in and out depending on what class I'm teaching, or if I have a lot of y'all that's already gave me a review, I'll probably ask for it on a Facebook page or on HAR or something like that. But I'm teaching you enough to talk to you guys about it. Mm-hmm. Q Hearts. Did y'all learn anything good today? For those of y'all who this is your first time learning contracts, you are taking a contracts class from me, you will never ever want to take anybody else's contracts class. Because then
That's why I am confused. Remember this? Okay. So, I sent you this.
mm-hmm.
I did wherever they are.
You're the buyer. So if you're the buyer, this is good.
Okay, so, but the title company didn't accept the survey. And so
If the title company didn't accept the survey, then the listing agent needs to provide the survey.
they need to pay for it, right?
Did they give you a survey? Yes or no?
They didn't give it to me, they provided, well, they said this and that, yeah, and they.
No, if they accepted, if the survey was provided and it was not accepted, then yes, your buyers have to pay.
My buyers have to pay.
Yep.
And you said that even if we put the buyer, they see it.
Yes, but that's only if they don't provide you with the survey. Correct. If they provide you with the survey and it's not accepted, then your buyers need to pay for a new survey.
Oh, that's.
And that means I always tell people if a pool was added or anything like that, then you always make the other party buy. Hello? 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 Yeah, my phone has been like crazy. Okay, everybody online, does anybody have any questions? Okay, drop your reviews on there. I'm going to send you guys a questionnaire. You guys are all set to get your 3 hours. How do we find out chickens or no chickens? Deed restrictions. You find it on the deeds. All right, y'all. Call me if you have any questions. I am here for you. And I look forward to seeing all your new listings coming up, but more buyers contracts. We need to target our buyers. Leave the review. I'm going to send you instructor evaluation classes. If you're online, I've seen 9, but I think there's only 7, right? All right. Everybody have a good day.